In this lecture, I will show you how to carry out zooming and measuring features in ArcGIS. This is the protected area system in Vietnam. And before I start with zooming and measuring, let's have a look here. This is the map scale, and it has been presented in the form of 1:10,347,279. And let's discuss what this means. I'm sure you've come across map scales before. So every time, say, you see a map scale like so, 1:1000, that means that 1 unit on the map is equal to 1000 units on the ground. So if your map is in meters, then 1 meter on the map is equal to 1000 meters in actuality, because map is just a representation of what you have on the ground. Now, by zooming, I mean I can change the size of the rendering. So if I go over here, I can actually zoom in, and that means that I can just make these appear bigger. So I've pressed this one, and I just want to have a closer look at this polygon. So I'll carry on pressing, and now this appears closer. And as you can see, the scale of the map has changed because now I'm displaying a much bigger map or bigger units. And if I want to move this around, because now I can't see the whole of my shape file, then I use the pan tool. Pan tool doesn't do anything, it just sort of lets me move these things around. So now I have a bigger map and I can't see everything, but actually I can move things around individually up and down using this hand tool. I can zoom out, which means I can make my map smaller, like so. Go on clicking away, or drag the mouse cursor down like so, and this will be made smaller, zoomed out. We can even zoom in and zoom out on a fixed scale like so. So we are zooming in, so we are getting a closer look at our features data, but in a very systematic manner. We can zoom out, so we are making our features smaller so we can see more of them in our map view, but we are doing this by a fixed amount, so we are using fixed steps. But in case you get tired of all this, then there's always a chance of going back to full extent, and this is the extent of all the data, or extent of this data in this given data frame. So if you press full extent, okay, now the default map scale has been restored, and now we can see everything in this particular view itself. But of course, with these tools we have the chance of zooming in or really honing into the data to see the individual features, or to zoom out. In the windows, I can go to magnifier, and this is more useful if you want to work with data at multiple scales. But so now as soon as I magnified that feature by 400, I can see that this particular polygon comprises of other polygons therein. So this is a good way of sort of magnifying into my polygon feature. So I'm not changing my map scale or the extent of the display or such like, but it's a bit of a Sherlock Holmes thing that I'm zooming into areas like so, and I can see each of the polygons of my shapefile in a magnified form. After zooming, the second thing that we can do in ArcGIS, and it's quite useful, is measuring. We have this measuring tool represented by a scale, and we can measure both distances and areas. So this lets us measure lines. This allows us to sum up. When it is toggled on, we can sum up the different line segments. Toggling off, then it's just one line at a time. And we can choose the distance units, and it's kilometers by default. So actually, let me just make it bigger. Now I want to measure the line segment from here, this vertex, to this vertex. Once I get to this vertex, I'll click again, and that shows that my length is 73 kilometers. I'll have to click out of my measurement tool and go back in again if I want to run another operation, and this time I want to measure an area. So let us just hone in or zoom into our data, and basically measure an area is a bit of a waste of your time, and you'll see why. Okay, you can just decide that you can create a polygon, and now it has measured it for me. It's 201 square kilometers, but I can only draw a random polygon in this tool and measure its area. But what happens if I want to know the tentative area of this particular protected area or of any individual feature in a shape file? For that, go here, measure a feature, click in, and it tells me that the area of the feature in this shape file is 907 square kilometers. Let's just zoom into the full extent. This is the Muang Nahe protected area, and let's see what is its tentative area. So the tentative area of the Muang Nahe National Park in Vietnam is around 3366 square kilometers, and mind you, these are just rough estimates, but they're still very useful for knowing how big or small the different features within a shapefile are, and it lets us get an idea of the extent and the different sizes within our shapefile. And of course, there are other ways of displaying and rendering the data and computing different aspects related to our data, but those are things that we will cover further on in the course.